good to note them down. Okay. So welcome everyone to Podium Superhour. Podium is a super achiever-led educational platform for co-curricular content taught by the world's best teachers. Also, we are extremely happy to announce that Podium is launching their first batch of courses in second week of November. And the courses are creative writing, calligraphy, contemporary dance, speech and drama, chess, kathak, drawing and painting. So all the super teachers you are seeing on the screen right now, I hope you know some of them, will be teaching you very soon. So guys, these programs will be taught by the world's teachers, as you can see, and we also look forward to seeing you participate in these programs. You can visit our website, that's podiumschool.com, for more information, and you can also contact on the number that is displayed on your screens to know about the pointers or any questions you wish to ask related to these courses. Coming to the instructions for today's session. In today's session, we will begin with our faculty's teaching. While the teacher is teaching you, you all will be on mute. If during that time you have any questions or any queries, kindly type them in the comment box. At the end of our session, we will be unmuting everyone for the interactive section, and you can also ask whatever you feel like at that time. So guys, today we have with us Miss Raveena Adisesha. Sorry for that name, I guess it's a typo. So today we have with us Miss Raveena ma'am. As you guys know, she has joined us earlier also, and we thank her for joining us today. So Miss Raveena is a bachelor's in science and physics and holds a diploma in screenwriting from Subhash Ghai's Whistling Woods International. She has taught English literature at Billabong High School in Dheri and is currently working as an assistant writer on a documentary to be aired on Netflix next year. On behalf of Team Podium, I thank Ms. Raveena for joining us today. Welcome again, ma'am. Over to you. Raveena, ma'am, I guess you are on mute.
Right. My bad. Hi. So some of you remember that the last time I spoke to you, we spoke about description writing, and we spoke about figures of speech that help us carry on with our descriptions. But today I'm going to walk you through some fundamentals of what takes to be a writer. Now I'm going to share my screen with you. We'll quickly just take a look at what some of the famous writers say about writing. After that, some of you can tell me about what books you're reading right now. We can get into a little bit about why we like reading, why we do this, and so that we can get into how it is that you can be a writer and where the journey starts. All right. So Ruskin Bond says, all glory comes from daring to begin. Now that's what it is, no, with everything. The day you say, I'm ready to do this, and you start working on it, that's the day that you start your one step towards achieving what you want. And here we are today trying to understand how to be a writer. Now, I understand that when someone says how to do something, that becomes a little bit boring, like because we're getting into the technicals of how to do something. But essentially, for writing, it is about starting to write. You must have seen all your school activities, your assignments, all of these things that you do. It's all you have to do is just start writing, look at whatever prompt or exercise or assignment your teacher has given you, and start working from that space. Now, some of these writers talk about what writing is. So Roald Dahl, says that good writing is essentially rewriting, which means you write something and then you take some time away from it and then you reread it again and then you say, oh, but these things fit here, these things don't, and then you take them out and then you put new things. That's what Roald Dahl talks about. Ruskin Bond says you can return to your book again and again, and the joy first derived from it will still be there. Do some of you do that? Do some of you go back to the books you have read? Do you want to tell me about some of the books you have read and you reread? For me, a book that I reread a lot is a book called The Catcher in the Rye. It's by J.D. Salinger. It's probably recommended for when many of you are going to turn 15, 16 perhaps. That's a good age to pick this book up. But Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone is another book that I return often to. So do you want to tell me about the books that you return to? Yeah, why don't you type it in your chat so that I can read it out? Someone is saying Dog Man. Do some of you read adventure stories? Do you read Enid Blyton? Do you read Famous Five? Mallory Towers. Yeah, Mallory Towers is another book. One of those quick reads, Famous Five, yes. Someone says Mahabharat. That's very interesting that you brought up Mahabharat because Mahabharat, which is an epic in Indian writing history, can be read multiple times in your life and there are different versions of it. Can someone tell me who wrote the Mahabharat? Vedvyas. Very good. So Vedvyas wrote Mahabharat, but there are many versions of Mahabharat itself. And another epic that we have is the Ramayana, right? Yes? Who wrote Ramayana? Valmiki. Very good. So you can read a version of Ramayana or the Mahabharata as a child, and you can read an 18-volume version of it once you're older. And it is a book that you can read and reread and learn a lot of other things. Someone's talking about Diary of the Wimpy Kid. How many of you like Diary of the Wimpy Kid? Many of you do know. It's a very easy read. It's about this kid who is talking about his life in school and how that is affecting him. So let's go back to some of the other quotes that people talk about writing so that we can try and understand what writing is. And maybe I can give you a few tips that you can jot down about how to write. And when you don't know what you want to write, what you can do to understand what you want to write. So Neil Gaiman says, this is how you do it. You sit down at the keyboard and you put one word after another until it's done. It's that easy and that hard. Don't you agree? Like when you start writing, you sometimes you have this idea. Sometimes you feel like, let's say your teacher asks you to write about your favorite day with your sibling, and you probably went to eat ice cream at this new ice cream place that has opened near your house, and that's what you're writing about. And then you sit down and then you write the first few sentences, but after that you don't know what you want to write. Does it happen to you often? Does it? Yeah. Yeah, it does happen to a lot of us, where you write a few sentences and then you reach what is called a writer's block. Now, what do you do when you reach a space, which is going to happen to you irrespective of whether you're writing a piece of short story, or you're writing an essay for your school assignment, or you're writing a novel, which I think many of you are going to go on to write. What you do when you have a writer's block is you go back to reading. Now, a lot of our inspiration, what is getting inspired, may be something that motivates you to write. And there are some books that we can call books that have changed our lives, right? Some books do change our lives. You start looking at writing itself in a very different way once you read that book. All of us have that one book, right? Maybe it was that story you read in a comic strip, maybe you read it in a newspaper. Do you read Calvin and Hobbes? And yeah, someone is telling me that Abe Robert is telling me that he reads Calvin and Hobbes. So there are these comic strips which appear in the newspaper, and then you read this and you feel like, I've not read something like this before. And then you start reading more. Do some of you want to share the experience of reading your first book? Yeah. Well, why don't you type it? Why don't you type it out on your chat? I'm gonna unmute this one child, Pranay Iyer, so that he can share his experience. Can you tell me about your first book? Do you remember?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, first time I used to get scared that this big book, I will be so bored after reading this.
Yes.
Then when I started reading that book, thoda, slowly, day by day, then I know that the books were actually not boring. Actually, they were interesting, adventurous. And my first book, which was read was Geronimo Stilton, the super chef.
Okay, thank you. So that's something very interesting that he spoke about, right? All of us do get bored. Sometimes we're like, oh, this book looks too big. This doesn't seem like something that interests me. But I always tell young readers and readers who want to start reading that always give your book about 15 to 50 pages. Usually, many writers can take a while to give us something interesting to look forward to. Most of you would have read J.K. Rowling's Philosopher's Stone. Yeah? And just the way it opens, The Boy Who Lived, it catches your attention because it's a genre called fantasy, where it's not the real world, right? It's a whole different world. It's a world that she created, and it so happens that you get interested in the world that she has created and you get drawn into it. Then there are Lord of the Rings, which is another fantasy fiction that is very interesting. So these are worlds that have been created. Now then, there are works like The Diary of the Wimpy Kid, which is very specifically to do with everyday life, right? Most of us connect with Diary of the Wimpy Kid, right? And he calls him the Wimpy Kid. Who is a Wimpy Kid? Can someone tell me who a Wimpy Kid is? Can you tell me who a wimpy kid is? A wimpy kid is someone who is, yeah, it means he's shy. It could mean that he, complains a bit. He's also a little, he whines a lot sometimes. He's timid. He's weak. Yeah, it means a collection of words. It's a word that can describe a couple of these emotions. I'm sorry, personalities. Now, let's take a look at another piece of advice. You can make anything by writing. Oh, that sounds very interesting, right? You can make up anything when you write. That's the whole beauty of writing itself, that you can make it up. You can have a cockroach be the hero of your story. Isn't that possible? Have we seen that somewhere? Have we seen stories like that? Augie and the cockroaches? Yeah? You can have anything. You can have a rat be the hero of your story. We've had this. Somebody told us, Journey Stilton. Yeah? And we have had Ratatouille, right? All of you have watched Ratatouille. Some of you have watched Ratatouille. Please watch this Pixar film called Ratatouille, which is about a little rat who wants to become a chef. Have you heard of that? Not really, right? Do rats cook? Rats can't cook. Rats just come and eat food that we have made, right? But in a story, in the world of your story, you can make up anything you want. And again, Neil Gaiman says, a book is a dream you hold in your hand. Now, all of these are very beautiful things, right? That your story is like a dream. It's anything that you want it to be. You can have a snake ride a motorbike, you can have a snake fly, you can have flying carpet, you can have flying saucers, you can have talking tea cups. Where does that happen? Can someone tell me where we have talking teacups? Has anyone read The Beauty and the Beast? Yeah, some of you have read The Beauty and the Beast. Yes, that's what happens. The teacups and candlesticks, the clock, they all start talking. And that's only possible in a story, right? Right. Just to take you back to how a story is written, one of the major things that you have to do is describe your writing. And as I spoke to you in the session before, and since many of you weren't there, or some of you weren't there, let me just quickly recap that. And I'll talk to you about the creative writing program that we are launching in the next week, that I hope some of you, if not all of you, are able to sign up. I'd be very happy if all of you get to sign up. But if not all, if some of you sign up, that will be really good. But before that, let's talk a little bit about descriptive writing. Description is the most essential part of your writing, and that is how you're able to communicate your story to the reader, right? If I tell you there is an apple which is red in color, but when I open it, when I cut it open, it happened to be blue. The evil witch in the castle had injected the apple with a blue colored poison. When I carried that apple to the prince and he ate it, he immediately choked and died. And I ran to the evil witch's castle and I begged her to take back the curse, and then she made me write my queenship to her. I gave my queenship to her and she brought the prince back to life. Now, if this is the story that I'm telling you, then essentially what I'm doing is I'm describing, right? I'm calling the witch evil. I'm telling you that she lives in a castle high up on a hill. So we describe the person, we describe the location, we describe a surrounding. Because once I reach the castle, what kind of a castle is it? It's a large dome which has many rooms. It has a long aisle to get to a chair on which the witch sits on. So we have figures of speech which help us understand how to do this, or rather put it across in a very interesting way. For you guys, we spoke about similes and metaphors. Then we spoke about imagery, onomatopoeia, and hyperbole. So imagery is again describing your surroundings, describing what you see in an image. If you're seeing a red apple on a table, that is your visual description. Maybe you hear a sound. You hear birds chirping outside. You hear squirrels squeaking. Then you move on to smells. And there's a smell of vanilla essence because somebody is baking cake in the kitchen. Yeah? That's a lovely smell, right? We all love that smell. And then there is touch. When the wind blew into my hair, I could feel the freshness that I hadn't experienced. Aren't all of us feeling that? Ever since lockdown has happened, you can't go out to play. You can't go out a lot of times. We haven't felt the wind in a very long time, right? Yeah? Many of us feel this? Yes. And then we spoke about similes. We spoke about as cold as an ice cream, as cold as ice, as hot as fire, as ferocious as the lion. Right? And then we spoke about an example. We said the king was fighting like a lion on the battlefield. And then we said a metaphor is something that takes simile for granted. And it says, he was a lion on the battlefield, which just calls him the lion itself, which escalates the whole thing. Then we spoke about hyperbole, which is exaggeration. To say that I died of embarrassment when my little sister came into the class when my teacher was talking on the video call. Happens to you guys? Or you do it to your elder siblings? Yeah, we're on a call. I died of embarrassment. Can you die of embarrassment? You won't. But you'll feel that, right? You're like, I died of embarrassment when my little sister came into the class, when she came into the room and my teacher was talking to me. Yeah? And we spoke about onomatopoeia, which is sound, which is writing sound, like splash. When you hit water, the surface of water, it makes that sound, right? It makes that splash sound. Yeah? And what does the bee do? Does bee do buzzing? Buzz. It does that, right? So we say bee does buzzing. What does the snake do? It hisses. So all of these are onomatopic words. Words that are like the sound itself. Clang. You take a spoon, you hit it to your steel cup, it'll give that sound. Ting. Yeah? Right. So now let me quickly move on to telling you a little bit about the program, and then we'll open it to questions. Why don't you tell me about what problems you have while writing, and if I have any suggestions for you, I will give it to you this class. I hope that sounds good to you. Yeah? Right. So this is the program we'll be having. It's a book by Ruskin Bond. It's called How to Be a Writer. Now he talks to us about how you can start writing, and he has given us some videos where he talks to us directly about how he writes, his suggestions for young writers, his tips, his advices. So based on this, we will be using the sessions to understand and come up with some writing. Now, there is going to be a trial class on the 6th and the 7th, which is Friday and Saturday, which you can figure out and talk to your parents. And I hope most of you can join in. All right? Okay. Quickly, we'll take 2 minutes. Let me give you your prompt. I hope you did the ones that I asked you to do the last time. Yeah, many of you posted it. I got to read some of them, so thank you for your time. Let's take down another prompt today. Let's try writing on my favorite cake, which is your favorite flavor of cake, and talk about maybe how you were at your friend's birthday party and it's your favorite flavor of cake and you got to eat it. Then you come up with a story, maybe make it something about how maybe the cake fell down, or maybe by the time you got to the party the cake got over and you couldn't eat it, or maybe you thought that they wouldn't be your favorite cake and you had a bad day at school, but then you go to your friend's birthday party and it has your favorite flavored birthday cake. So try describing your favorite flavor, what it tastes like. Describe the cake, what it looks like. Describe what you feel when you eat it. And then you write your story. All right. Now think about your questions and we'll open it to the questions about how to write, maybe some questions you have about the program, maybe some things you want to know about description writing. You can open your questions in about 2 minutes. Yes, somebody is asking if they can write a fictional story. That's exactly what I want. Write a fictional story. Okay, someone is again talking about how they write a sentence and they don't know how to write ahead. Many of you may have that issue. So that's what I'm recommending, that when you have difficulty figuring out what you have to write next, take some time off and read something else. Because when you read something else, it helps you pick it from that place and understand what you want to do with writing. Okay. Simran, do you want to come in and help me with taking the questions?
Yes, ma'am. So guys, you can raise your hand and I will unmute you one by one. Okay, so Adha, I have unmuted you. You can ask your question.
Yeah, go on, Adya.
Okay, Vanchika, I have unmute. Okay, Adya. Yeah.
Ma'am, actually, I have written few stories, but I am having problems in that how to increase the story with good words.
Okay, what I suggest you do is you also start learning new words. Another thing that I recommend that you do is learn more words every day and get yourself a dictionary and that will help you add more words. Once you start, you know that this is what you want to write, and then sometimes you don't know what the word for it is. If you say she was very pretty, you can also write she was charming, because very pretty is also charming. Beautiful. You want to use words like this, right? Is that what you're asking, Adya? Yeah?
Sadia, if you can be a little louder, we are not able to hear you.
Yes.
Ma'am, actually, I was having internet issues. So, like, ma'am, my basically, my problem is like I know my word is happy, but more good words we can use
Yeah, you can write
instead of
exactly, right?
happy.
Yeah, you can always use joyous, you can use ecstatic, you can use excited. Now, this,
Yes, ma'am. Actually, I know the words, but the time we need these words, we don't remember them.
yeah, so spend a little more time. That's what I'm saying. To write more, you also have to read more. If you are familiarly looking at these words every day, then it becomes easier for you to write them. You know what I'm saying? If you're reading them,
Yes,
then you
ma'am.
also know how to write them.
Okay,
Okay, good
ma'am.
luck. I hope you get to write more stories and share them with us.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay. I
Yeah,
think,
Vanchika, go ahead.
yeah.
Ma'am, can you repeat the assignment?
Okay. The assignment is that you think of your favorite flavor of your cake that you really like eating. Then you imagine that you're at your friend's birthday party. Then you write a story from there describing the flavor of the cake that you really like. Were you able to eat it at your friend's party? Maybe it was there, maybe it was not there, maybe it was some other cake. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
just build a story around a birthday cake. Describe the flavor of the cake, how the cake looks, what it tastes like, how you feel when you eat it. Okay?
Okay. And ma'am, after we describe the cake, should we write the story?
Yes, yes.
Okay, ma'am.
Describe the cake, keep that as your reference, and then write a story based on that.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay, Pranay, you can ask your question.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, sometimes I remember the story. I know how to write it. I remember the whole thing how to write. But when I start writing my story, I said, "Oh no, what I have to write? I totally forgot. Oh no, what I have to write it now."
Okay, so what I suggest you do is before you start writing your story, you make a note. You make a note of all these big ideas you have. I know, I understand what you're telling me. You tend to forget. Everybody tends to do that. So, what I do before I write my story is that I make a note. So, I write, okay, the evil witch will inject the apple with poison, the prince will choke on it. Then the queen goes to the evil witch. So, once I write all of this down, then I sit to write my main story. So, I suggest that for you to do. Okay?
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Aradha, I have unmuted you.
Ma'am, I would like to ask that, ma'am, when I write a story, I forgot that what word, ma'am, means when I write story,
Hmm.
I just means that I don't know which word I use for this sentence. That I am writing on Snow White, some one princess story. I don't know which sentence I use, which word I use to write full the this sentence.
Yeah, that's what I said. So, what I suggest is that you also do a lot of these grammar exercises. When you do grammar based exercises, which your schools already have, the reason we make you do them is so that you can improve your sentence construction, so that when you write your stories, they have perfect sentences. And I always recommend that you learn more words every day, and the way to do it is to read. To read more is to write more.
Okay, ma'am. And ma'am, one more doubt.
Yeah, tell me.
Ma'am, I would like to write a story on that. I'm going to, I sleep, and in my mind, there was a fairy. Can you tell some main points on that I can write a story?
You want to write a story on a ferry.
Ma'am, means I am sleeping in night, and in my mind, ma'am,
In your
ma'am जब
dream, you
सपना
have a
आता
ferry.
मैम जब सपना आता तब मेरे माइंड में फैरी आती.
Okay, so you dream about a ferry.
Yes.
Right. So I will not tell you what to write because it'll let it be your story. So what I again suggest is that you think about what the fairy will look like, what clothes she's wearing, or if it's a he or a she. Do they have wings? Do they come on a flying carpet? Do they fly? Are they able to give you your wishes? Think about all of these things. Make a list of all of them. Once you made a list of all of them, it will be easy for you to start writing your story.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we will take 2 more questions and we'll end the session. Does that sound good? Simran, does that sound good?
Yes, ma'am, completely. So, guys, if you are left with any questions, you can always post them along your assignment, and Raveena ma'am will see them, and I will forward you the responses. So don't worry if you are missed out. So, Panya, you
Why
can go.
don't you text me these questions and I will be able to answer them.
Ma'am, I want some tips for writing a story.
What tips do you want, child? Like, can you be specific?
Like, what can I add in that story about a particular topic? What should I write in that story?
Okay. Uh,
But Panya, what's the topic for your story? Ma'am will help you better if you can tell what you are thinking to write about.
so that's exactly what I'm telling you. And this is my suggestion for all of you. Before you start writing a story, start making notes about your first thoughts. Your first thoughts will usually be, I want to write about a red color balloon. Those are the kind of ideas that usually come. Or, as this person was saying, she wants to write about a fairy that she dreams of. Now, once you have this idea, you start thinking about everything else. You think about, let's say you want to write about a shoe that you want to buy. You've been dreaming of buying this shoe. Start describing the shoe. What does it look like? What colors are on it? What it can do? Does it help you play better basketball? Does it have uh, like gliders on it so you can? So it's a shoe that turns into roller blades. You can give all of these attributes, right? You can give these qualities to your shoe. So you start thinking of this and you first start writing them down. Once you start writing these down, which is why description is a very important part of writing, that you first formulate your ideas about what you want to write about. And then you start writing your story. Then it becomes easier. Once you have a plan, you'll be able to make it happen.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we will just take one last question and
We'll take Devanshi. Is that okay? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I was thinking to write the story as my favorite, flavor of cake is chocolate. Like usually we have different flavors. So, ma'am, do we have to write a story on ourselves? Like, I went over here and I did this, or we have to write it on someone else?
Anything is fine. Now you can go to a party. This party can be at your house. It can be your siblings' party. Right. The reason I didn't say it's your birthday party, because usually when it's your birthday party, your parents will go and get your favorite cake, and you usually get the cake that you want, right? So I'm saying write about your favorite cake. Now you're hoping that for your sister's birthday or for your cousin's birthday or your friend's birthday, they probably have that flavored cake. But when you go there, it's not that cake. Or maybe that cake was made, but by the time you reach there, everyone's eaten it. You know what I'm saying? Set up the story to go in that direction. What I essentially want you to do is learn to describe the cake, what it looks like, and how it tastes, how it makes you feel when you taste it. Yeah. All right. It was really nice seeing all of you, and I hope we get to see each other again soon. And I hope to see some of you for the classes. So, good evening, have fun, and happy writing.
Thank you so much, Raveena ma'am.
Thank you, Simran. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Ma'am, are you able to